They didn't necessarily prohibit them from putting it on the sidewalk more explicitly in front of the roadway, but nevertheless there was arrests. There was about 3. I don't know. I'm not sure. I just ran.
Even further for being on the sidewalk and raising awareness and agitating about what's going on. We were without power for 3 goddamn days. People died. People froze in their own homes. And now they're doing this to us? They're arresting us on the sidewalk for being on public property, protesting, practicing what is our right to fight against the suppressive system? That is absolutely horrendous. That deserves our anger. That is unjustified, and it deserves us coming together and organizing. They might be able to arrest one of us. They might be able to isolate us and harass one of us individually, but they can do nothing against us when we're together. When the working class, when the neighbors, the people in our community, everyone comes together to fight back against our enemies, we can do anything. We can make a better world. We can make a world where people don't have to go days without power or water, where people don't die in their homes. We can make a world where that is absolutely feasible and possible, where that is reality. The enemies against us are people like Greg Abbott, Steve Adler, ERCOT, and especially the cops and DPS. All they do is serve the capitalist class. They serve private property at the expense of the working class. We constantly bear the brunt of each economic crisis and the violence occurred on us, and we declare no more. Through organizing, through us coming together, we can fight for something better, where we don't have to deal with these cops, with these politicians and their empty promises. We don't have to deal with any of that because we'll live in a better society, but we have to fight for it. We can't stand down and allow them to arrest us and allow us, or force us ourselves to passively and quietly protest against it. No. We need violent protesting. We need militant organizing. And we need people to come together now and fight every single day until we get the world that is ours.
So, quick summary. There's a group of about 15, 20 people out here now. It used to be closer to 30, 40. What happened was, and why I'm winded, is that somebody got arrested and the cops ran after them. I could probably say I'm faster than these APD cops. I was absolutely about to pass the other cop before I tripped because I don't have the best running shoes on right now. My shoe was falling off, but if my shoe wasn't falling off, I would have caught up to those guys. So I'm in good shape. I walk about 6 miles a day. Anyway, they were placing furniture in front of the street, kind of as a reminder of what people went through in the last week, specifically as a response to, I guess, the alleged inaction of Greg Abbott and members of ERCOT, some of which have resigned since then.
So yeah, we're out here because, many of us, millions of Texans have been without power and water. Many of people have frozen their homes. We don't know the entire total death count right now, but that blood is on the politicians' hands right now, and it's just another continuation of the state's failures to meet the needs of the community, to meet the needs of the people. Moments ago, DPS rushed in because apparently some furniture that had been damaged during the flooding that happened from many people's bursted pipes got dumped here, and that apparently is enough of a criminal offense that they felt the need to chase people through the parking lot and then suddenly arrest the person that was just in the crowd. Yet again, another example of how the state criminalizes people for their dissent. They did the same thing over the summer. They tried to divide the crowd between peaceful and rioters. That was kind of how they divided it. This is just how they try to divide the class in general and divide the people. They want us to fight against one another. It's the same way that the city employs the rental assistance lottery and housing organizing. They want to encourage people not only to basically chain themselves to payment plans and basically agree to pay a debt that they absolutely could not afford to pay. I don't know about you, but I couldn't pay a year's worth of back rent. And they do this also to discourage organizing, to pit tenants against one another. What we say is, like, let the corporations and landlords compete for it. If they need the money so bad, why don't they take it? Why don't they fight against one another for that money? You know, it's the same thing with this winter crisis. Like, they want us, they're only coming out here, they're doing publicity stunts so that they can get elected. That's their whole premise. They don't care about people. They just use our stories as propaganda. They use our stories to make people feel. They talk about mutual aid. They talk about caring. What mutual aid matters when you're actually not, you know, it's kind of like versus CNN. We're about teaching people to think. We want to get organized and we want to actually fight for a better world. Because this society is decrepit. This society is rotten, and it continues time and time again to get more and more rotten.
So we're outside of the Austin, Texas Capitol, in front of the governor's mansion. There's about 15 people out here, all of them protesting the recent disaster that happened in Texas. Specifically, they're upset that ERCOT and the governor allegedly did not act with enough time or with enough concern for people who are more likely low income. One person got arrested, primarily 3 people got arrested, I think, because of the furniture that was being put out here. This furniture was furniture that was thrown away as a result of the flooding of some of the homes that were left without water from pipes bursting. If you don't know, many people went without power here in Austin and all around Texas. There was a power outage that lasted almost 5 to 6 days, if not longer, for others. Whew, man, I'm catching my breath still. Excuse me, guys.
No water, no power, no money for these cowards. No water, no power,
No payments for these cowards!
no water, no power,
No payments for these cowards!
no water, no power,
No payments for these cowards!
no water, no power,
No payments for these cowards!
no water, no power,
No payments for these
For those of you wondering
water, no
and are unfamiliar with the situation, weather here in Texas was brutal. It reached about 10 degrees, especially during the time that people were without power. Texas has not had weather like this in over 40 to 30 years, which has, been a reason why Texas wasn't properly prepared for the kind of weather that we got. People did die from the cold, including an 11-year-old who died from hypothermia in his home, in his bed, under blankets.
Yeah, for sure.
Many places remain without water to this day, including entire mobile home parks, apartment complexes. The people who are helpless in many of these situations, regardless of whether they may have the income or resources to repair their home. Plumbing supplies are low. For a long time, grocery stores were empty because roads were really rough and dangerous to drive through.
We are a revolutionary women's organization. The capitalists have caused crisis at every single turn, from the economic depression to the pandemic to the outages, and these are all a result of imperialist rule, and these crises are going to continue to happen because the capitalists have control over production and how society is run. It's not in their interest to stop these crises and to provide and protect people, as long as there's still enough of us to clock in at work the next day. They will always put profits over the needs of the people, and we cannot rely on the society that created this, we cannot rely on the system that created this crisis to end them. Working class people, we have the capacity to take power and create a new society that puts the needs of the people over profit. We make up the majority of the world, and we produce everything in this
Marilyn, you're right. This is very similar to some of the weather in the north. But if you've ever been to Texas, you know that that kind of weather is almost literally non-existent. I mean, that weather has not been in Austin since I was even a thought. Since before I was even a thought, this weather has not been seen or experienced in this part of the United States.
That imperialism will be swept from the face of this earth, and we need to be fighting for it. International Working Women's Day is coming up on March 8th. Popular Women's Movement has an annual march to show ourselves as an organized force that is not only celebrating all the revolutionary women who came before us, but also show that there are women in the United States right now organizing for revolution. The international working class celebrates this holiday because of women's capacity as fighters for revolution. We want everyone to come out, women, men, everyone, because this is how we let the imperialists know that their days are numbered and the working class will not pay for their prices. If anyone who wants to come out to the march and get organized, we will be giving out flyers. Come talk to me or any of the people with flyers about coming to the march and coming to training. Thank y'all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So for those of you that don't know, we're in front of the Austin, Texas Governor's Mansion in the Texas Capitol Building in Austin, Texas. There's a small group of people out here. One person was arrested from putting furniture here on the sidewalk. They brought it as part of a representation of the furniture that was lost as a result of the flooding from pipes bursting. This is a response. This particular demonstration is a response to the lack of water and power that happened as a result of the weather here in Texas. They argue that this was more a result of the lack of preparedness of Texans and ERCOT and politicians, and they're demanding that Abbott resign, and they're also speaking against our economic system, likely a cause in their view of many of the shortcomings of Texas during the winter storm.
In the murder of Black lives, we've seen this numerous times when the police carry out their own investigations. They're going to come to their own conclusions. They're going to come to the conclusion that we're responsible somehow and that we're going to have to bear the brunt of it, whether that's through tax dollars or whatever. Their failure to invest in infrastructure, their failure to care about the needs of the people is what got us here. And it's what continues to make the people suffer day in and day out. So we'd say enough is enough. Organize and fight. We have to come together. It's involved in the housing struggle. It's involved in women's struggles. It's involved all over the place. We have to fight because the society is corrupt and decrepit. They left us in the cold to die. Cast the ruling class aside. They left us in the cold to die.
Cast the ruling class aside.
They left us in the cold to die.
Cast the ruling class aside.
They left us in the cold to die.
Cast the ruling class aside.
They left us in the cold to die.
Cast the ruling class aside.
They left us in the cold to die.
Cast the ruling class aside.
They left us in the cold to die.
Cast the ruling class aside.
They left us in the cold to die.
Cast the ruling class aside.
No water, no power, no payment to these cowards. No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
And like we said earlier about publicity stunts, speaking of politicians that are guilty in this whole situation, Abbott is currently in Houston right now doing a publicity tour with President Biden. It just goes to show you that they'll link up and they'll join arms together and present some sort of false unity in order to do the PR stunt together, in order to further each other's careers. But this is Paulo. This doesn't mean anything. We're going to Houston for what? To look at food distribution? To like look at what's going on there? We already know what's happened. People froze to death in their homes. People died without access to the medicine and the care that they needed. Hospitals were without running water or power. This is disgraceful. Meanwhile, we're in the midst of the worst health crisis we've seen in the longest time. Worse than swine flu, worse than, a lot of different pandemics that have happened throughout history. And they let this happen. They allowed this to happen. They did it for the sake of profit. They did it to make money. They did it to basically avoid any sort of extra spending so that they could maximize the amount of profit they made.
How's it going?
No water.
How are you?
No
Do you mind if I ask you some questions about why you're out here on camera?
No power.
Do you want
No
to
payment to these cowards.
No water. No power.
just, if you want to just tell us what you've seen and everything, what, people got arrested or maybe why you're out here, whatever you want to talk about, man.
Yeah, just a second ago, I don't know if y'all were watching, but they just started snatching people who were trying to put damaged furniture in front of the mansion there in the driveway, and they just started snatching people, so they ran away, and I don't know if they should have ran or should have stayed still. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just showed up here, but it was really traumatizing. I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought they were going to start snatching all of us for a second there. It really looked like that, right?
Yeah.
And my heart's still beating pretty fast from that. It still hasn't stopped beating slow yet. And there's no telling what could happen next. They could just take all of us. There's probably around 20, 30 people here maybe. Yeah.
What brings you out here, man?
I saw it on Instagram post getting shared around. That I saw a flyer on Instagram and had nothing to do. And the weather's nice for a revolution.
Were you left without water and power?
My pipes exploded. My pipes exploded, and I got lucky because I live near a bus station. Didn't lose my power.
Yeah. Some essential buildings stayed on.
Yeah, that I got very lucky in that sense. But even then, when my water was out, I was still doing mutual aid, bringing supplies to my houseless neighbors nearby.
Awesome, man. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Do you want to say your name, or are you comfortable like that? It's up to you.
I'm good
Cool,
without
man.
a name,
Perfect.
but I follow
Yeah.
you.
No, thank you.
If anybody wants to speak about their experience during this crisis, talk about how you're doing, what the situation is, why you're out there.
Maybe the main reason
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm trying to get him to see if he'll talk to me. About the protest and why you're here and what
I'm not entirely sure. They're just I wouldn't. I'm not entirely sure.
So,
This is mostly just
for those of you that don't know, we're out here in Austin, Texas, in front of the Austin, Texas Capitol, and more specifically, across the street from the Capitol building and in front of the governor's mansion. And right now there's a small group of people here, about 15 now, maybe at most 20, who are protesting the lack of power and water that resulted from the inclement weather in Texas. It got really, really cold. A lot of people went without power. Many are still without water, and they're demanding answers from the governor and other government agencies. like ERCOT. I don't think ERCOT. Yeah, ERCOT is a government agency who is in charge of the electric grid in Texas. And if you didn't know, Texas has its own independent electric grid. There's an investigation ongoing about what is really to blame for the mass loss of power in Texas, and then also a push to respond to people that don't have water.
A drop in temperature for a few days. The reason why that was a crisis was because the capitalist system has mismanaged everything that we need.
There is a power company that wholesales power, which means that it's subject to market fluctuations of price, and a lot of people are charged ridiculous amounts of money. In Austin Energy has a fixed rate, which is protected by 5 different layers of approval before prices are changed. So Austin is not likely to see the price hikes, but people that were with energy companies that wholesale energy were likely to see these price hikes, which many people find unethical. There are many people that, feel like that's just the way that the government and the economy works, and there's other people that are hoping that, the bills that are in the thousands of dollars are remedied or eliminated, especially given that there was a disaster in Texas due to weather.
The capitalist leaders and the owners of the property. We need to put people first and property last. Support United Neighborhood Defense Movement in our fight to make housing a workers' right, the people's right. We need a movement. We can't rely on politicians. We can't rely on votes, voting in this corrupt system. We need a movement of the people, for the people. Good. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. This might be a good time to mention that while power grids regularly cross state and even international borders, Texas has its own grid to avoid federal regulation and is now one of the most unregulated energy systems in the world. What caused the Texas outages isn't an engineering problem, nor is it frozen wind turbines blamed by Republicans. It's a financial structure for power generation that offers no incentives to power plant operators to prepare for winter. Texas has created an electric grid that puts an emphasis on cheap prices over reliable service. That's what caused the problem. Nothing else. Nothing else. And it's up to us to change it. Just as any system seems irreplaceable, that's the moment when it's the most replaceable. So, that's all I have to say.
Okay, I thought you were saying.
No water, no power, no payment to these cowards. No water, no power, no payment to these cowards. No water, no power, no payment to these cowards. No water, no power, no payment to these cowards. No water, no power, no payment to these cowards. No water, no power.
Abbott's hands have blood on them.
We're not here to make amends.
Abbott's hands have blood on them.
We're not here to make amends.
Abbott's hands have blood on them.
We're not here to make amends.
Abbott's hands have blood on them.
We're not here to make amends.
Abbott's hands have blood on them.
Hi, by any chance, do any of you guys feel comfortable speaking on camera? Cool, no worries.
Not a natural disaster. It was an unnatural disaster led by capitalism. A small amount of snow is apparently all it takes to
Hey
break
guys,
the
by any
Texas
chance, are any of you guys
infrastructure
comfortable
and
speaking
create
on
billions
camera?
without power.
Cool,
But
no worries.
the snow is an external force. We know for the
What is it for?
politicians that the
I'm an independent journalist, man.
they're the people
I'd
that
say-
the crisis that happened.
Yeah, no worries.
They
Yeah,
chose
I understand.
Not to win crisis systems. They chose not to build better infrastructure to better withstand the storm. They chose again and again to not protect the people. And what is the result of that? What are we concluding to? It's us bearing the brunt of this crisis. It's us losing power and electricity and water for days on end. While the rich, while the capitalists and politicians everywhere go on fine, without a problem. This is not an example of our society being broken, but this is our society working exactly as it's intended. Our society works for the favor of the rich. It works for the capitalists and for private property at the expense of the working class. We constantly, after every crisis, every hit in the system, we bear the brunt of the crisis. We bear the damage, and we have had enough. Today is not going to be the final day that we're out here agitating and fighting back about this. We know that the only way we can create sustainable, actual change is through consistent and proper organizing. We know that this can't just end today, that this can't just fizzle out, that we need to continue this every day and become stronger and stronger every day in every possible way we can. Only then can we fight for and achieve a better world. Only then will we have the infrastructure and utilities and multiple other things that we need in order to live. Only then will they be sustainable. Only then will they not be taken from us at the last second by the capitalists. Only then can we have a just and unified world. We are not here to make amends. Abbott's hands have blood on them. We are not here to make amends. We are not here to make amends. We are not here to make amends. We are not here to make amends.
So, for those of you that don't know, we're outside of the Texas governor's mansion, across from the Texas Capitol. There's a small group of people here chanting, and they're protesting specifically the lack of power and water, and the lack of action on behalf of the government, the alleged lack of action on the government and Abbott and organizations like ERCOT that are in charge of the electric grid. 3 people were arrested so far, primarily due to this furniture that was put out. This furniture is furniture that was flooded. Some of these peeps' apartments after pipes burst from the freeze.
Louder, y'all. I know y'all pissed off. Louder. We won't. The whole damn system is to blame.
We won't let the people die in vain.
The whole damn system is to blame.
We won't let the people die in vain.
We know that what happened the past couple of weeks is not an isolated incident. Capitalism necessitates the existence of crises after crises, whether it be an economic crisis or an infrastructure or health crisis, whatever it may be. We know that capitalism leads to these types of things over and over again. What is the solution to this? How can we stop this from happening in the future? Or should we passively allow it to happen and do nothing? Should we? No, absolutely not. We need to organize. We need to fight back. We need to unite with everybody possible so that we can fight for a better world. We're all oppressed under capitalism. And the crisis of the past couple weeks showed that clearly and profoundly. We know that there have been over 80 deaths as a result of the crisis, as a result of the negligence of the ruling class, of people like Greg Abbott, of people like Steve Adler, of companies like ERCOT. We know that private property allowed that crisis to happen every step of the way. And that is why we, the working class, need to fight back. We need to get together. We need to fight for a better world where these crises don't affect us. We have the tools, we have the ability to stop these crises, but the capitalists choose not to because it is not profitable to them. So what are we going to do? We're going to fight back and organize. Look behind us right now. There are dozens of DPS and cops, not only behind us, but just like probably around us. This is pathetic. This shows how broken the system is. They need to have 3 goddamn days to get the power back on in their communities, but they can mobilize DPS within seconds. This shows who the capitalists serve. This shows that all they care about is private property. Where were they when our power is out, when we didn't have water, when we had people dying in our homes? Where were we then? But now that we're throwing furniture up in front of a lane that isn't even a drive-through, that's when they arrest people. That's when they oppress us. That's when they use more violence upon us. They're not here to help us. They're not here to help anybody except the capitalists. They're here to help people like Greg Abbott and Steve Adler who put us in these conditions in the first place. They are not our friends. The politicians are not our friends. All these people are class enemies. Who are our friends? Our neighbors, our co-workers, the people in our community, the working class in general. And we need to unite with everyone possible in order to make a better world, in order to end the violence that is inflicted on us by the capitalist class. No water, no power, no payment to these cowards. No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
No water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands have blood on them. We're not here to make amends.
Abbott's hands have blood on them.
We're not here to make amends.
Abbott's hands have blood on them.
So yeah, we've all kind of talked about how Adler and like Abbott has been accountable to this whole situation, how they actually did nothing and have done nothing but try to shift the blame. But the same is true of city councilors. The only ones that stepped out of their homes were ones that were doing it to fulfill their careers and to like do publicity stunts. Nobody actually did anything. And Natasha Harper-Madison, Greg Kassar, they all like didn't show out. And these are like our supposed progressive city council members. So let's remember that and let's show our anger and go down to City Hall and also, you know, let them hear a little bit of it. I know they're not in because they get the convenience of Zoom calls while many of us have to actually still go to work in person. But at least can go out there and show our anger and symbolic frustration. So yeah, we should just take the sidewalk and go there. All right? Woo! We're not here to make amends.
Abbott's hands have blood on them.
We're not here to make amends.
Abbott's hands have blood on them.
All right, guys, I'll give you an update in just a bit. This crowd is moving over to City Hall. We're in Austin, Texas.
Abbott's hands have blood on them.
I don't know what group this is.
We're not here to make amends.
Abbott's hands have blood on them.
We're not here to make amends. No water, no power, no payment to these cowards. No water, no power. No water, no power. No water, no power.
So we're walking to City Hall. This group came out to protest specifically the loss of power and water that resulted from the climate in Texas that took a dip For the worst, honestly, it snowed here. There was about 6 inches of snow. We also experienced weather of down to 10 degrees. What if I did an anchor voice? I feel like sometimes my voice fluctuates, kind of weird. The crowd is about 15 people. They started in front of the Texas mansion. The title of this particular event suggests that the people that are out here because they're upset with ERCOT and the Texas government, more specifically the governor, Greg Abbott.
Y'all in the front should hold up a little bit so we can all.
Three people have been arrested so far, I believe. It might be 2. It's definitely 2, but it might be upwards of 3. The people that were arrested after furniture was left in front of the mansion on the sidewalk. Initially, they put it on the front door, the driveway of the mansion, but then afterwards, the police asked that it stay out of the driveway. People put it on the sidewalk, but nonetheless, individuals bringing furniture were arrested. Police didn't explicitly instruct protesters not to put furniture on the sidewalk. When they first gave direction, they were upset about the furniture on the street, blocking the fire lane. Downtown Austin, Texas, in case you're just joining and you have no clue where we are. I don't know who this group is yet.
We also want to call on people to take this into action. Not just demand that these people resign, not just demand that they leave their posts, because they're just going to be replaced by some other worse crony or somebody who's just as bad as them. But we also demand that we put force on the state to actually respond to our demands as a community. We don't want to pay for these utilities bills to respond. In fact, we want to call on everyone to join the utility strike. Join the neighbors. Join the right strike. Even pay back rent. The United Neighborhood Defense Movement actually has a demand that we've been working with the housing struggle. We demand that there's debt forgiveness, and that we don't have to be responsible for any of that bad rent and that government and corporations have to pay. Because those are the ones that make money hand over fist right now. Companies like Amazon, without water and without power. They left homeless people on the streets to die. This state and this country doesn't give a shit about anybody. And that's why we got to get organized and we got to fight back. It doesn't just stop with the random utility strike. We have to actually come together and fight these administrators in our own lives. Because these types of messes that the ruling class makes is not going to stop until we do something about it. So yeah, link up with people. Get organized. I've seen a couple organizations speak here. Get organized and actually do something meaningful. We're organizing a rent strike in the Riverside area. We're also organizing a utility strike in the Riverside area. Like I said, we have 5 demands. We demanded the corporations and the government pay for the debt accrued over the last year over the economic and health crisis for giving back rent. We demand that stops all the businesses are paid. We demand that the city-owned dwelling be turned over to the
So we're walking towards City Hall with the group that's protesting the water and power crisis that resulted from the inclement weather in Texas. Do keep in mind that Texas weather went down 10 degrees and Austin received about 6 inches of snow. There are reports of up to 12 inches of snow. In places where it hasn't snowed like that or like this in over 40 years, the weather and the amount of change was dramatic enough to where many were not prepared. Havant plants are dead all over the city, which is super sad, but it's a result of the weather. Bats are also dying. Austin is really well known for the bats that live under Congress Bridge, which is further down the street near downtown. And many bats were found dead who didn't migrate and stayed behind in the city. The flash freeze did a number on this city. People died. Yeah. A child that was 11 years old died from suspected hypothermia in his bed. A healthy 11-year-old child, because of the results of the lack of power, which resulted in the lack of heat.
We're not here to make amends. We're not here to make amends. We're not here to make amends. The whole damn system is to blame. We won't let the people die in vain. The whole damn system is to blame. 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 The whole damn system is to blame.
You won't let the people die in vain.
The whole damn system is to blame.
You won't let the people die in vain.
The whole damn system is to blame.
You won't let the people die in vain.
No water, no power, no payment to these cowards. No water, no power,
No payment to these cowards.
no water, no power,
No payment to these cowards.
no water, no power,
No payment to these cowards.
no water, no power,
No payment to these cowards.
no water, no power.
No payment to these cowards.
They left us in the cold to die. That's the ruling class's side. Left us in the cold to die.
That's the ruling class's side.
Left us in the cold to die.
That's the ruling class's side.
Left us in the cold to die.
That's the ruling class's side.
Left us in the cold to die.
That's the ruling class's side.
Left us in the cold to die.
That's the ruling class's side.
All the system is to blame. All the people die in vain. All the system is to blame.
You won't let the people die in vain.
The whole damn system is to blame.
You won't let the people die in vain.
So we're in Austin, Texas, here with a group protesting the lack of power and water in Austin. I don't know who the group is. We're on our way to City Hall.
privatized energy. Because this is the thing. The same things that are causing, this whole problem with private property. It's the whole issue of private enterprise and private ownership. It's the same reason that, people are losing their homes. It's the same reason that people are being evicted. Because $1 of exporters, $1 of the money is more important than life of people. They want us. They know that justice is coming. They know that this system is done. It's over. That's why we've seen more and more crises time and time again.
So we're on our way to City Council here in Austin, Texas. I don't know who this group is specifically, but they're demanding accountability from Greg Abbott and other government officials. I think so far I've gathered that they're pushing strongly for a more socialist form of government, without being able to interview them, since most of them are not, very comfortable in front of a camera. I can only guess exactly what ideologies they subscribe to, but I've heard a lot of attacks on capitalism and a lot of chants in favor of more socialist policies. Ian, I don't know if you're watching, but I'd appreciate if you help me in order to be able to read some of the Twitch comments as well on this stream.
Won't let the people die in vain. The whole damn system is to blame. We won't let the people die in vain. The whole damn system is to blame. We won't let the people die in vain. The whole damn system is to blame. We won't let the people die in vain. The whole damn system is to blame. We won't let the people die in vain. The whole damn system is to blame. We won't let the people die in vain. They left us in the cold to die. That's the ruling class society. Left us in the cold to die. That's the ruling class society. Left us in the cold to die. That's the ruling class society. Left us in the cold to die. That's the ruling class society. No water, no power, no payment to these towers. No water, no power, no payment to these towers. No water, no power, no payment to these towers. No water, no power, no payment to these towers. No water, no power, no payment to these towers.
So again, we're walking to City Hall, which is quite a few blocks from where we're at. People here are upset over the alleged lack of response from the Texas legislature and politicians like Greg Abbott. They've even spoken against other candidates like Greg Casar and other city council members they feel did not do enough to prevent the disaster.
Won't let the people die in vain. We won't let the people die in vain. We won't let the people die in vain.
We are currently approaching Frostbank Tower on 4th and Congress. That right there is the spot where Greg Foster, an activist out here, was shot and died. His memorial was located on the bench right across the street from here. Yeah, so this particular area here has a significance maybe to some of these people that have been involved in protesting since July of 2020 last year. God, man, it's been a whole year. I mean, not a whole year, but it's a whole new year now. Three people have been arrested so far today. I think I was able to capture 2 of those arrests, but they happened after some of the folks here placed furniture on the sidewalk of the entrance of the governor's mansion. Originally, they put some furniture right on the roadway or the entrance of the mansion. Then officers asked protesters to remove the items from the fire lane in the entrance. They did so and then put them on the sidewalk and then added to the pile. But in that moment, police officers came and arrested some of the folks protesting out here. They're calling for a strike, probably maybe on utility bills. Strikes definitely on rent. Many complexes here are still without water, and people in Texas, upwards of 2 million, were left without electricity for almost a whole week. They're calling for a strike.
We're not here to make amends. Abbott hands have blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands have blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands have blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands have blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands have blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands have blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands have blood on them. Water, the power, the
So we're in Austin, Texas, on our way to the Austin City Capitol. No, not Capitol, City Hall. The Austin, Texas City Hall. There you go. That's better said. I got a little too enthusiastic there. Anyway, there's a crowd of about 15 to 20 people, maybe a little bit more. I'm really bad with numbers, so you guys could take a guess for me if you feel like you have a better guess. Moreover, so far, 3 people today have been arrested over some furniture that was placed on the sidewalk, but was initially placed on the streets. That was the entrance to the Texas governor's mansion. So again, now we're arriving at City Hall. We started in front of the Texas governor's mansion, which is across the street from the Texas Capitol building, which is in downtown Austin, Texas. I don't know what group this is, but they're protesting what happened recently with the water and with the lack of power, all of which they feel has a lot to do with the decisions that Governor Greg Abbott and city council members made leading up to the extreme weather that Texas faced this last week. 2 million people lost power. Many are still without water due to pipes bursting. There's entire complexes still showering in some other place other than their home because there's no water in their home.
No
Many blame ERCOT for a lack of preparedness. Many legislative decisions were made in early 2010, 2011, where there was a decision as to whether or not to winterize the grid. I believe then there was another extreme cold weather event, but nevertheless, the decision was not to prepare for extreme weather. Texas has not experienced weather like this in over 30, 40 years, including snow and 10-degree weather. Almost the entire grid was down, for the exception of people that live near essential buildings like fire stations, hospitals. All of it was because there was an unprecedented amount of demand for power. Power went out for upwards of 88 hours for some folks. My own power was out for 72. And during that time, there was no access to grocery stores or food. The roads were iced over completely. There was no way that anyone, including diesel truck drivers, could drive anywhere, which meant that grocery stores remained empty for quite a while, until the roads were then eventually deemed to be safe, all of which happened relatively recently, about a week ago.
Because it wasn't members of the community that actually came together and supported one another. It was people in my neighborhood who supported each other. We came together, we pooled resources, we cooked food for each other. We ran a damn warming center at one of our tenants' apartments. It wasn't warm, but there was enough of us, and we managed to make it work. I saw more people in my community stand up than I saw any official, than I saw any sort of politician. And that's because they don't give a damn. ATV, they did do one good thing. They let those people, when the power went out, they let them roll out with their cart. But that's the bare minimum. We should be doing that all the time. People deserve these things. These are basic necessities. These are things that people need. They knew we were out of it. What did we see as soon as we ran out of water? We saw price gouging. What happened at hotels? We saw price gouging. No amount of regulation is going to stop that. Because this is the thing, it's private enterprise, private business. Just like somebody can kick you out of their business for not wearing a mask. The state can decide whether or not they can enforce these things. They can tell ERCOT to do stuff, but ERCOT doesn't have to listen. They pay the fine, $750,000 fine, and then they just roll on. These people are in the business of making money. $750,000 is nothing to them. So if $750,000 is nothing for them, how about they pay for the back rent? How about they pay for the back rent of all these tenants that can't afford it? Those of us that go out day in and day out have been working during this health crisis, have been working during this economic crisis, busting our ass, risking our lives for it. The city would rather put their linemen and utility workers out there in the cold at the risk of getting frostbite and just tell them, oh, we'll give you overtime. We'll pay you a little extra. We'll give you the hush wing. There's that hush wing. That's what this is all about. It's needless suffering that they didn't have to make happen. And they chose consciously to let it happen. And that's why we're angry. That's why we're here at City Hall. Even the progressive candidates that ran on these platforms talking about workers' defense and all this stuff and like the proletariat or whatever, they can say whatever sugar-coated words they want to, but in actuality, in practice, they don't give a damn about working people. Working people care about working people. And we don't do this for money. We're not out here because we want some sort of media publicity. We don't care. If there are live streamers here, dope. If there's not, don't care. Because the fight is more important. I know that I don't want my kids to grow up in a society that's disgusting and decrepit like this. I know that I don't want my kids to suffer like I had to growing up and like I continue to this day. I don't want them to have to work until their fucking body falls apart. My mom's in her 50s and she's still a waitress. She's still busting her ass every day. She's taking care of my grandmother and my great-grandmother. I know so many people in my community that are like that. Meanwhile, we got Adler over here chilling in the W. He doesn't even have to be there. He has another house too, but that fool's just chilling in the W. Nice and cozy. He wants to tell us to conserve energy when that motherfucker's got lights around his picture frames? Like, get out of here, dude. We're not having it. So we demand that they pay for this. They bear the brunt of this utility bill, not just for February, not just for this last week. They should be paying the back utilities of every single person in Austin who makes less than 100K. They should be cutting rent in half for people who make less than 100K. 100K is a lot of money. I think I made 20 grand last year. I don't think anybody's making that kind of money. Unless you work in a tech industry. But even then, it's important that we get together and we fight back. We don't just let these moments like this kind of catch why I win. Because this isn't the first crisis, not the last. This isn't the last time they're going to do this to us. It's important that we organize now, we fight back, and we fight for the demands we have to improve our conditions. We ain't going to stop our neighborhood kicking us out. We're not going to have that happen because that's not how the system works. But what we can do is we can fight to improve the conditions that we have now. We can fight to improve our living situation and fight for one another and fight for a better society. They left us in the pulpit.
Hi guys. I wanted to ask if you were comfortable maybe answering some questions on camera about why you're out here. I mean, it's really like, my name's Hiram. I'm an independent journalist. It's really casual, nothing professional.
Yeah, I don't think I'd really be down for that today.
Cool. Yeah, that's absolutely no problem.
Yeah.
No worries.
How do you feel watching through 4th and Congress again?
Oh man, I was mentioning it as I was walking by. Yeah, dude, it's always,
It's intense.
yeah, it's never comfortable.
No.
Oh man, how'd you feel?
Creepy. I mean, it's been a few months,
Yeah.
so came back for the vigil and all that stuff. So just feels like not much has changed.
Yeah.
Organization that we can fight back, that we can win, and we can fight for a better world. We know that we don't have to rely on handouts or any care from the state because they cannot provide it. They don't provide care to the capitalists, to private property. That's all they protect. They have the ability multiple times throughout 30 years to winterize the system, and they chose not to time and time again. Why did they do this? Because it wasn't profitable. They found that they could pay more profit after the damage had already been done, just doing damage control and actually making the system work the first time. This is why a small, tiny bit of snow was able to disrupt this entire system. We know that this wasn't the snow. We know that this wasn't the fault of a natural disaster. Capitalism is an unnatural disaster, and we need to fight back against it every step of the way. We are out here fighting militantly. There are certain people who want to profit off of like what we say, who don't actually care about the message. Right in front of us is Hiram, who is a protest paparazzi. Time and time again, he has been told to leave protests, but he continues to monitor us and film us in order so he can like better furnish and complete his brand. Multiple times, police has used his recording in order to find and track down protesters and arrest them. This person over here, this independent presser, he is not with the people. And don't forget that for even a second. We need to fight back. We need to have unity with everyone possible, not the people who want to capitalize off of our movement, not the people who don't genuinely care about what we actually do. We need enthusiasm. We need full-hearted support of the people. We need organization.
So now I think I have a better idea of what this group might be. It's likely that it's the Austin Liberation. Also likely that it could be there are representatives from the Popular Women's Movement, led by an individual named Media. I think that's the last I read of that particular group. And then there's also members of likely the organization previously known as the Mike Ramos Brigade.
That is an injustice. That is a sign of a failing and broken system. That is a sign of a system that needs radical and immediate change. So let me ask you all this. Are we going to pay for utilities and rent during a time where utilities were not even provided to us? Hell no.
I love you guys.
We shouldn't have to do this. We shouldn't have to pay for the damages caused.
And if you just are jumping in, I'm an independent journalist. I do this on my spare time. Today, actually, I'm not at work, just trying to bring some information to the community. I love you guys. And I hope you enjoy the content, and I hope it's informative. I try to remain unbiased and try to provide you the most factual and objective information that I potentially can as a human.
Because we know that these parasites in office, the people in the ruling class, don't care about us one bit. But who does care about us? We care about us. The working class cares about each other. And we know that through strong and effective organization, we can gain a world that is better. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands up, blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands up, blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands up, blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands up, blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands up, blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands up, blood on them. We're not here to make
So we're in front of Austin, Texas City Hall with the group that's potentially associated with the Austin Liberation Movement, which is listed as a UT student group. There might also be people here with the Popular Women's Movement and likely the Mike Ramos Brigade. I'm not too sure though. I mean, allegedly the Mike Ramos Brigade disbanded, but I believe they rebranded to a new group. I'm not entirely sure. Some of you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about, and if you don't, you could absolutely go and watch some of the other videos where that particular group was protesting. So for those of you just joining, we're in Austin, Texas, near the Austin, Texas City Hall. I mean, right in front of it, actually, with just a few individuals that are protesting the lack of water and water, demanding a strike. People are upset about specifically some of the politicians' alleged inaction during the crisis, the climate crisis. There was a whole scandal where Ted Cruz went to Cancun right in the middle of many Texans, upwards of 2 million Texans who were out of power and out of water in 10-degree weather.
We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands up, blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands up, blood on them. We're not here to make amends. Abbott's hands up, blood on them.
That's what I'm talking about, y'all. So, I think it's pretty ironic that we're right here on the City Hall grounds, where that whole east side was shut down, had no light. The lights are twinkling bright over here. People were warm over here. Abbott sat in his house with his sleeves rolled up and his lights on his little frame, and he was experiencing a great warmth of electricity, a great warmth of being able to rake in more profits from his constituents, right? So, like, we can look at Abbott and say, yeah, Abbott, you know, you failed the state, but he also opportunizes on his own constituency too. Abbott also opportunizes on his own constituency as well. So, like, Adler opportunizes on us, you know, by playing to this, like, Democratic base, you know, we gotta turn our energy down, I'm fighting for y'all, you know, workers, you know, whatever, you know, I'm for the working class. But at the same time, Abbott's like, you know, pulling that same line, and then Abbott's saying stuff like, you know what, I welcome ERCOT board members stepping down. But ERCOT is a huge campaign donor to Abbott, you know, and these private energy companies are huge campaign donors as well. Because the thing is, this is a capitalist problem, not just a politician problem. The politicians uphold capitalism, and then through the destruction that capitalism naturally creates, they then opportunize on our struggles within this capitalist society, in this imperialist world. That's the thing. That's how it all ties together. Because they have every reason to want to keep this system afloat for them, because they're the ones making all the money and have all the power, while we have nothing. We have no political power, and as of this last week, most of us didn't have power in our homes. Like, it just shows that we don't have anything that we actually need. We also have these opportunities that come in on every level. And yes, Hiram is one of those. Hiram absolutely opportunizes on people's struggles. He shows up at this critical point, and then he, like just now, he went to the police, and he's like, as the furniture was being dropped off, and he just was like, hey, I just want law enforcement to know that I am not involved with this. It's like, Doc, you got a press badge on. Like, what kind of press person is out there throwing stuff up? But, you know, it's just like what it is, you know? And, like, at that point, he's, like, trying to, like, get his viewers up right now, you know? Well, what do we say to that? What do we say to opportunism? What do we say to people that traffic and the people struggle? We say, hell no. We say, hell no. Because at the day, opportunists are what? They're enemies of the people. That's right. So, just because it's been a long time since we've seen Hiram, and he's here now, I just want to say it. Hiram Garcia, enemy of the people. 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 There we go. That'll be good for his feed. Get his reactionaries all riled up to come back him up next time he comes out.
And it's also good to point out, the reason that we say these opportunities is because I've seen this full with like any other protest except for this one. And it's probably because he expected this one to be the biggest. He wanted it to be something that could further his career and like popularize the stream. Whereas like groups like True Vision of the People, even other local news sources like the Challenger, like actually like goes out and like is among the community. Like that's what's important. Like if you actually like spend your time there, not when it's just hot, not when it's supposed to be popping and it's cool and everybody knows about it. We should just always seek to do that because this is unjust. We shouldn't have to freeze to death in our apartments for people to basically like, you know, be moved to change. We know that this system's corrupt and we know that it's messed up, and it's people like this that are just the same as these politicians who go out on publicity stunts, do PR campaigns and get elected. So yeah, with that, I do want to say thank you all for coming out. While I didn't organize everything, I'm glad at least people showed up.
So, just to clarify, guys, I absolutely make $0 from this. And one of the biggest reasons my stream has not been as active is because I've been working at a nonprofit called Oxfam. It doesn't need a justification, obviously, but, you know, I just want to clarify for anyone that may not be familiar with myself. I'm an independent journalist. I do this entirely based off donations. None of my content is monetized at the moment. I don't even think there's ads on my live stream, and there very well could be, but there never has been. And there likely won't be unless, you know, it becomes necessary for me to continue the stream. But otherwise, you know, it's all free on my own spare time, even in moments where I was unemployed.
Don't get wrapped up. Just make it back to your car. Be safe.
And if anything, you know, like part of the reason why I haven't been as active streaming is because, you know, I've been a lot, you know, more focused on making sure that, you know, I'm taking care of my own personal stuff. But there will be more content coming. I really want to focus on bringing information to the community. I want to focus on interviewing folks that we want to hold accountable. I want to, you know, interview city council members, the mayor, you know, the governor, whoever it is we can get on here that can answer questions that many of you have back at home. This is all about you, really nothing about me, and I do my best to, you know, just serve the community in the way that, you know, kind of, you know, I think I've discovered I can do best. But thank you so much for watching, guys. We're outside of Austin City Hall today. There's about 3 arrests. 3 people were taken away for placing furniture on the sidewalk. It was a whole ordeal. I encourage you to watch the video if you're curious about more of the details. This protest was, you know, a peaceful protest. About 20 to 30 people, upwards of 50 showed up at some point. They marched down all the way down from the Capitol or the Texas governor's mansion down to the front of City Hall. That's about, you know, all that happened. They were extremely concerned about ERCOT and the governor's response, including some city council members, to the disaster caused by climate here in Texas. A lot of people were left without water, without food, and without power. So, you know, there's a lot of groups standing up, some volunteering, others protesting, a mix of a lot of community uprisings that resulted from this weather. Upwards of 2 million Texans were left without power. There's currently an investigation into ERCOT. If you don't know, ERCOT manages the Texas electrical grid, which is independent from the federal grid. Nevertheless, though, thank you so much for joining. I wish you guys all a beautiful day. I love you all. Be safe. Take care. Drink water.